Hey, folks, welcome back to the Carl Zahn Show, or as I affectionately like to call it, the show. Before we get underway here, I'm going to do my pleading with everybody to like, share, and subscribe. We're trying to grow this, and as of this week, I'm going to ask people, even if you don't like it, hit the like button. So our usual stuff, we usually do like a little weekly segment about aviation-related things in aviation that apply to life and how you do live your life and all that. We're going to forgo that this week because I'm delighted for the first time in the show's short history to have an in-studio guest. This guy's an old friend of mine. We used to do stand-up comedy together all over the place, worked together many times. Mostly, I might say, probably doing charities for veterans and local police departments and stuff like that. So without further ado, my good old friend, Joey Carroll. Look at him with his knit cap and living in Maine now.
Oh, I'm not playing. I'm leaning into my senior year.
Are you developing the accent, the lobster? No. I mean, you're from Mass.
I'm not going to be pandering. I'm still going to be me.
Okay.
I don't have to pander.
That's what we like about you, is there's no pandering allowed.
And, the whole aviation thing, I mean, we're car guys.
Yeah.
So it used to be when you say, I'm going to blow the doors off them, you were talking about beating somebody in a race, but Boeing has redefined that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've done several segments on Boeing here since the show.
Woo!
Kind of talking about how the decline of this once great American company, it's almost mirrors the decline of the country, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Boeing was this fantastic company, and now I'm assuming these are DEI hires that are checking the bolts for tightness, and we got tires falling off of Boeing airplanes.
Did you see the parking lot where that landed?
Unbelievable, right?
It was great.
Like a 500-pound tire falling out of the sky.
I know like 16 people in my life that would push their car into that lot for the check.
Yeah, exactly.
It hasn't run in years. Get it in there.
Yeah, and I'm sure there'll be more checks to follow because there's probably going to be some PTSD lawsuits from that, don't you think?
There's got to be. There's got to be. I mean, everyone's lining up. You got to get a piece of it.
I figure it's only a matter of time, Joey, before people start booking their airline flights on Airbus only.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, like kidding aside.
Yeah, it's just every time you see it's like Delta has another issue, and it's like with a Boeing jet, and you just go, well, there's a combination for you, huh?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
That's like cookies and milk. I think the end game is type 2 diabetes with that one.
Yeah.
It doesn't end well. Put them down.
Come fly with us, or at least make the honest effort to fly.
Yeah. Where are you going on vacation? Hopefully.
So listen, you and I... longtime friends, like I said in the open, we used to work together a lot, and I remember doing a lot of charities with you, which is odd because I guess we're self-branded conservatives, and I didn't think conservatives did charitable things, but you and I must have been the exception because I remember doing a charity comedy thing for Honor Flight at a big hangar at Nassau Airport.
Yeah, that was great. They do great work. I mean, taking them down to see the wall, and it's amazing the people you meet when you do those things. It's phenomenal. Your circle gets bigger and bigger, and you're connected with more people doing the right thing, and it's insanity.
Yeah, there's some channel on, I think, YouTube or something that they do interviews with these old World War II guys, and they tell their stories, and every time I think I'm having a bad day, I watch one of those things about some 18-year-old guy freezing his ass off at 30,000 feet with taking shrapnel and flak, and it's... Right, I mean, it's amazing what these guys gave.
Like I went to Korea to do shows over there, and Korea now is not what it was, but it was cold. Yep. And you go, this killed almost as many people as the bullets did.
Yeah.
The cold, it was just...
It's incredible.
Yeah, you get wet, you get cold, you die. Yeah. It's over.
And boy, I would say in 2024 America, we certainly have exercised the freedoms, quote unquote, that these guys brought for us, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and you know what? It shouldn't just be for us. It should be for everybody around the world. I mean, just take the door off the front of your house. And when someone's sitting in your living room, don't ask them to leave. Ask them, what was the circumstances that brought you here? I want to understand best.
I'm sure when these guys were bailing out of B-24s over Germany, they were thinking, 75 years from now, I'll be so delighted to know that all the third world countries are taking advantage of my efforts here today.
Yeah, the Venezuelan family squatting in my parents' house, I think that's a good thing. Yeah. I think that makes perfect sense. And
God bless America.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And you look at the squatting rights, and you go, the squatting rights are exactly the border rights.
Yeah.
You go to the border, they wanted to, I get into it with somebody last night, and they said, well, the Republicans voted no for a border bill that would have brought in more border agents. They went, no, processing agents. They just want to speed up the rate that we process people coming in illegally, and then they get an 8 to 10 year appointment to show up for court. Now, can you imagine if you robbed a bank and they said your court date is 8 to 10 years from now?
Yeah.
You go, I don't know how much time I got left. I think it's worth it.
Yeah, we'll see you Tuesday afternoon in April of 2042. Oh. I know you would show.
Oh, yeah. And, here's the other thing. Now, between now and 8 years or 10 years, how many legal children have been born to that criminal who crossed the border illegally?
It's so brutal.
You're never getting them out. You're never getting them out.
It's so brutal. So one of the things I want to talk to you about today, because I know you'll have a good take on this, and I'm sure you probably heard it. So I think it was last week in New York, this conservative artist, I think his name was, I got to look through my notes here, Baido or something like that. So anyways, this New York conservative artist, he shows up in front of City Hall in New York with like 10 boxes of New York pizza. And it broke my heart, actually, to know what he was going to do with this pizza. And he had this little small crowd of like 20 followers, and all these cops are around. And so he said he was there protesting New York's new regulation on wood-fired pizza shops, right? So New York now wants these pizza shops to add these expensive filters to save the climate. And also with this new law, you have to have an engineer come in once a year and check your pizza oven output and make sure you're not polluting too much. So this guy comes in and he says, I'm here protesting this stupid law and this overreach of the government. But he goes, I'm throwing pizza at City Hall, but what I'm really doing is feeding the pigeons. Now, you and I think, would agree. I might be wrong, but pigeons don't eat pizza, do they?
No, but rats do, as we've learned from the video.
That's exactly where I was going. Rats eat pizza, and there's certainly plenty of those in New York.
Absolutely.
But listen, if anyone has seen this clip, and this guy was a typical New Yorker because every other word was an F-bomb, and he was just losing. He goes, and then he opens the pizza box, and he got a total of 3 slices over the fence before the cops had him in handcuffs and took him away. And this, ladies and gentlemen, because I always talk about on this show, the whole premise of this show is logic and pragmatism and wanting the other side, the other team, to understand why for some of us, like the break in the logic trail drives us crazy. So in this same week in New York, this artist gets busted for throwing 3 slices of pizza over the fence at City Hall. That same week, this young cop, as everyone knows, 31-year-old Officer Diller, pulled over a car Monday in New York. In it was one guy who I think had 21 prior arrests, 9 felonies. Yeah. The other guy with him had an array of arrests.
Yeah.
And this poor young cop who's married with a 1-year-old son or 18-month-old son gets shot dead. So in New York, 3 slices of pizza at City Hall, handcuffs, gone, but these people are still on the street. So well, where are we, Joey?
You get whatever you accept and you make it acceptable, you will get more of it. And the revolving door of people committing heinous gun crimes and not being prosecuted under the existing laws, yet they want to implement new laws for people who have a legal weapon to defend themselves from the same guy that they refuse to hold in jail. It's crime and punishment is part of it. However, it's not just about punishment and rehabilitation. It's about keeping the rest of society safe. And that's what gets lost on me. It's like, well, I don't think the guy should do 10 years. And you go, well, let him stay at your house.
Right.
I mean, I see these people from parole board sign off. I see the psychs sign off. It's like, how about this? You put your livelihood on the line that if he reoffends, you'll give up your license to practice psychiatry. Well, I don't want to do that. It's like, so you're not willing to risk your livelihood, but you're willing to risk everybody's life. Yeah, I guess that's a fair trade.
Yeah, and it's kind of stunning to me. And I laid it out like when I first started doing this podcast and this show. I said, look, I'm not here to win hearts and minds because I fully understand and accept that's not going to happen. There's about half of the country that is dug into their ideology that has nothing to do with logic. It's purely based on emotion, as far as I can tell. And then there's the rest of us trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together and say, how does any of this make sense? Now, there was another guy, and I don't think it was in New York. I should have written this down, but this was just a day or two ago. Guy got paroled, released on parole.
Oh.
That very day, he goes and visits his former wife or girlfriend and kills her and her son or child that tried to save her.
But she did have a protective order against her. So I'm sure he had to stab through the paper to kill her.
Yes, exactly.
It's just, you know what? Why can't she have a gun?
Right.
I don't see the reason.
And why can't she have protection? Like, you would think you're going to parole this guy.
Yeah.
You would think that you've already got protection around her and her kid or kids, or at least have alerted her or something, right?
No, you don't need to do that. What's the likelihood this guy's going to reoffend? It's probably somewhere around 95 to 100%, but, we'll take our chances.
The likelihood and on the first day.
And how about just doing the sentence you're given? You'll see somebody sentenced to 15 or 20 years, and 3 years later they're out, and you go, what happened? How did he get out in 3? Yeah. It's amazing. It's like you rip the tag off your mattress, and if you voted the wrong way, you're going to do 6 months somewhere.
Yeah. It's mattress prison.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. And oddly enough, you'll be sleeping on a steel bed.
That's the irony of people who go to prison for taking the tag off the mattress. And probably that might not even be a joke anymore. Now, you're still doing comedy and stand-up, and I've been on hiatus for 6 or 7 years here. But what's it like out there now? Like, is the frost finally starting to dissipate where, like, you can actually go out and do comedy again?
Yes and no. It's just, it used to be people would at least let you finish the joke, even if they didn't like the topic. And now the topic is enough for them to just start screaming and crying and getting the signs out and walking out front and demanding their money back because you can't say anything about this president. You can say something about the last one, but I guess it skips a generation. Then you can not say something about the previous one, but the one before him you can't. So it's like in every other cycle. Yeah. And again, if the joke is funny, the joke should be funny. And it's just, you'll see the arms fold and you go, oh, okay, I know how this ends. And I go, you know what? I don't need that half of the crowd. I'll work to the other half.
I was kind of happy last week in New York to see, I think our studio operator was trying to do a rim shot for you there or something. I'm not sure what he's on today.
It's the ghost in the machine.
On a brighter note, I was happy to see in Huntington, Long Island last week that a bunch of Trump supporters came out to protest a Kathy Griffin appearance at a local theater. Did you see any of that?
I did not.
Yeah, well, they had this huge parade of Trump supporters. So Kathy Griffin, who, for those of you who are not familiar, she was she's not funny anyways. I don't even know how she's still in the business.
She's the stand-in for Carrot Top.
Yeah, exactly. She's the female equivalent of Carrot Top.
I don't know if I would use that word.
Yeah, you're right. Female?
Equivalent.
I wasn't sure if you were talking about female, carrot, or equivalent.
Yeah, it could be any of the three.
You're
That's
right. Yeah, I think all of those are punishable by some kind of fine. But it was kind of funny to see in New York. I was amazed at these people that have their SUVs. Like, I've seen the pickups with the Trump flags and all of that. There were people who actually had like these really intense, like raps on their vehicle,
Yeah.
like Trump,
Yeah.
patriotic. I mean, these people have spent money to basically turn their vehicle
into a target.
into a Trump parade float.
Yeah, but it's also a target if you go anywhere. I mean,
100%.
I mean, the reason I don't have bumper stickers is I don't want my car keyed.
Yeah.
I don't want my antenna snapped. I don't want my window broken.
Yes, I have to admit that
And you go, really? Is that going to happen? Yeah, it has happened.
Yeah, I figured that out early on in 2016. I had a Trump sticker on my car for about 3 weeks. And that's about how long it took me to figure out that wasn't a good idea for business and otherwise.
No, it's just like, again, it's like, okay. And I mean, I've seen the videos where they have people in malls that are walking by keying the car and they don't realize that they're on video. They go, I didn't do anything. Oh, no, we can actually show you the paint coming off of the key as you walk by. Why did you do it? Go, well, he had a bumper sticker. And you go, oh, did the bumper sticker hurt you?
Yeah.
Show us on the dolly. Where did it touch you?
We're all on video now everywhere.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Either doorbells or, I mean, you can't get away with anything.
I mean, you got to hand it to these Nigerian princes who can scam people because I don't know how you get away with anything.
Yeah, it might be. They got one up on us. So, I was kind of happy to see that. And for those that don't remember, Kathy Griffin was the one, I think it was in 2016, who held up a fake severed head of Donald Trump, which, aside from not being funny, you would never get away with that with, I mean, I don't know. How about you or I hanging up a fake severed head of Joe Biden or Barack Obama? Like, how long would that?
Oh, it wouldn't go long. It wouldn't go. And what was funny was how she was crying about her bookings getting canceled, but then she played Carnegie Hall about 2 months later. Like her book filled up for doing that. It didn't cost her work. It got her back into working.
That's amazing. That was my next question, was how was she doing filling places? But I guess it's probably helped her.
Well, it's like buying the book Becoming Michelle. You don't buy it because you want to read it. You just want to support the cause. Yeah. So people didn't really necessarily find her funny, but they'll go there and clap and go, "Yeah, sister. Yeah, sister."
No one has actually read the book.
No.
It's just a donation.
Yeah.
So before we get into this other, yesterday in New York, I just kind of out of the blue have to ask you, have you noticed, or has anyone else noticed, that Nancy Pelosi's eyes are sinking so far into her skull that she seems to have 4 eyebrows now? Have you noticed that, or it's just me? There's like a shadow in her skull.
I haven't seen a lot of her on camera lately. I don't know.
She's still on the news and TV and stuff, but check that out next time you see her. Just tell her.
I haven't really noticed, but
yeah, it's like she's got 4 eyebrows now because there's an actual shadow in there. It's almost like an eclipse. And I was watching her on one of these shows the other night, and I'm like, wow, does she paint on an extra set of eyebrows or something? Or, I don't know. You know what? Could start a trend.
Yeah, it might. And by the way, Stephen Colbert, ironically, was the one that was hosting the 3 former presidents. I'm sorry, 2 former presidents.
Yeah.
and the imposter.
Oh, yeah, don't get ahead of yourself there, Joey. Yeah, my God, we'll have the FBI.
He is the most virile man to ever hold that office, I'll tell you.
Well, that was quite an event, and that's exactly where I was going. Yesterday was, to me, the perfect dichotomy of a tale of 2 presidents. You've got Trump a mile away at the wake of this young officer that was killed. And by the way, for people who are going to say that he used that as a political opportunity, no. He actually called the widow, something Joe Biden never bothered to do, and he was asked, my understanding is he was asked to attend that wake. So it wasn't a political opportunity. No. He was asked to go, and then a mile away, you've got the 3 amigos selling $100,000 a pop to get a picture with Clinton, Obama, and Joe Biden, which is just stunning to me. I mean, I might pay $100,000 to be sure that my picture wasn't taken with those 3. And then I think the per plate price at the event was what, $500,000 a pop?
It was, I know it was a minimum $100,000 to get that inner circle picture by Annie Leibovitz. And they also had $250,000 places and $500,000 places. And I mean, this is Lunch Bucket Joe. He's a man of the people, just not the ones that have ever carried a lunch bucket. I mean, who buys a ticket for $500,000? A man of the people? Really? Come on now.
I know.
Come on.
And the funny thing is about like all of this stuff, and it's like I kind of said in the first episode or two, like it's kind of like howling into the wind, because it's not like someone from the other side is suddenly going to have some epiphany. Hey, I saw Carl Zahn and Joey Carroll on a podcast, and I've completely changed my thinking about the parties and where the country's going and all that. Like, none of that's going to happen, but you kind of wonder, like, what does it take and how crazy does it have to get for, like, even a few people to come around?
Well, I think the delightful thing was they were getting heckled by their own people over Ukraine and Israel.
Yes.
And you go, wait a minute. This is just too good. This is so not. Why didn't they just handcuff themselves out front so they could cancel the event? And I guess they probably cut their hands off if they tried that, because $500,000 a ticket. No. We're not going to let that happen.
Yeah, boy.
We need those people in there.
It's amazing to have that kind of disposable income, I mean, I remember 4 or 5 years ago, I was questioning $60 a ticket to go see Vince Gill in Concord, which thankfully I did, because one of the best shows I've ever seen. But man, when you can shell out $500,000 for a photo op and a dinner with these three at Radio City Hall, I mean.
Well, it's like, think about it. That photo is just like, that's going to be your cover photo on all your social media. So your virtue signaling is now up a level on anybody else. That beats the Black Lives Matter sign in front of your mansion.
Yeah,
really
that will be next year's Christmas card for lots of people. Look at me, look at me.
Look at me.
Yeah.
And what's funny is everybody that's getting their picture taken has that same look on their face, like, do you smell something?
So funny. And then, so on a more joyous note, I was so thrilled at this. I say thrilled. So everybody knows about the Trump case in New York with the supposed fraud with his business valuations and all of that. And by the way, Jon Stewart just got caught overvaluing a property he sold a few years ago by like 782% after railing on Trump. But what really caught me last week was they had these news outlets that had like tables and chairs, and like they were all set up in New York. Like they actually thought Letitia James was going to come out last Monday and put a big golden padlock on Trump Tower. And like they were all ready for it and practically, like pre-orgasmic over the event. And then not only does Trump get this 11th hour reduction in his bond from like an obscene amount to only a obnoxious, filthy amount, but then the Truth Social goes public, and Trump all of a sudden is on the verge of making $6 to $9 billion.
And the best part about it, this is what the best.
Oh, it's so beautiful,
the best
Joey.
part was the week before, Joe Biden had started calling him Broke Dawn.
Yes.
Broke Dawn doesn't want to leave his basement. It's like, Broke Dawn, really? How many fake paintings do you have to sell to get $6 billion?
How many fake blow dart paintings of hunters do you have to? Yeah, I know. So
that's not red paint. That's actually blood coming out of the straw because you did too much blow.
Yeah, probably too much blow and crack. Yeah, it's so funny. I always talk with
addiction
people.
Is bad and it hurts everybody.
Yeah, it hurts everybody. But there's also a point like. I always marvel at that. Like, would you ever show your face again if you had public pictures of yourself, like in a scarf and underwear with a crack pipe hanging out your mouth, and you got a whip, and you've got like 3 prostitutes in the room? Like,
and your niece.
Wouldn't you move to Kennebunk, Maine, and just hide? I'm sorry. Further north in Maine. Wouldn't you move away and hide?
Oh, I would go where it's acceptable. I would try to sublet Diddy's house. That's what I would try to do. I would go, Diddy, you got a room for me?
This is why I had you in, because I never would have thought of that.
Wow.
You go where it's common and acceptable.
Yeah, and that is, I mean, Epstein Island's probably I'm guessing it's not empty. I mean, I don't know who took it over.
Epstein's Island is beginning to look like beginner stuff compared to Diddy. I'm kind of glad you brought that up. Like, what?
Well, you look at what the charges are, the allegations, like money laundering, because the record companies were paying, and there were cameras in the house to get info on people, to blackmail them, and I'm sorry, to just use leverage on them. I don't want to use the term blackmailing with Diddy.
That's not.
Someone will write a nasty letter with all caps.
Yeah, I'll get a bunch of negative comments on the channel.
Ooh, a big thumbs down. Ooh.
Yeah. I think you can call it white mail now.
Yeah, well,
that's acceptable.
Possibly.
Yeah,
but it's just the schemes are just amazing. And I think it was a couple of weeks ago. It was Fang Fang's boyfriend was talking about Chinese having leverage and infiltrating.
Swallowwell?
Yeah.
Swallowwell?
It was hysterical. Yeah. And then whoever was there just went, I just find it really ironic that Swalwell is telling us about Chinese getting leverage over us when you were sleeping with a spy.
The other funny thing about the Diddy story, I can't even believe it's hard to say even the word Diddy in like a real sentence, but I'm glad you brought that up, because the other thing and I haven't followed that story that closely. Number one, it's so disturbing. Yeah. But the thing that always amazes me is, like, people were surprised there were cameras in every room. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Right? You go to a guy's house like that, and it's some kind of like underage teen sex orgy. Oh. And then you're surprised, especially after the whole Epstein thing. Oh. You're surprised that you're being recorded, like everything you do in that place.
Yeah, it's just...
Are these people that stupid, or?
Yes. Yes, they are. Because their egos are so big, they go, why does this model want to sleep with me? Oh, she probably knows who I am. No, they paid her a huge amount of money to swallow her pride, and possibly yours. But still, the point is, your ego has overtaken your rationality. You can no longer rationalize.
I'm trying to smooth over the thinly disguised swallow reference in that joke. Let's move along quickly. Ronna McDaniel, NBC, MSNBC, the big meltdown.
Oh,
shocker.
You know what's funny about it is they've publicly created a hostile work environment to open them up to a huge labor suit. They go, wait a minute, she was hired and you guys made it so painfully uncomfortable for her and the bosses that it's a hostile work environment. They have laws against that.
I think one of the most, the whole thing was just so mind-blowing to me. Not surprising. I don't mean mind-blowing that way. But the level of hysteria from Chuck Todd, Joy Reid, Rachel Maddow, who, by the way, she wears these low-cut things. And again, I'm not trying to be cruel, but I've just noticed. And it goes up, but her head has no shape. Like most women, they have cheekbones or looks, but her head is the same width. And when she wears this particular outfit, it just looks like a white sausage with a wig on it. Like, it just goes up, you know what I mean, Joe? It's
I don't want to disparage the poor person's looks, but one of the reasons that Rachel Maddow was upset was all of the misinformation from Ronna McDaniel. And this is the woman who said, if you get the shot, it stops with you. You can't get it.
Yeah.
You can't pass it on. And I don't know that she's ever publicly apologized for lying blatantly.
Yeah.
I mean, if you say something that far off and then it comes out that the world is actually round, you got to kind of own that. But
they never do.
They never do. That's the difference. They never own it.
That's why I say, it's just kind of stunning, this alter universe that these people live in. And then I don't remember if it was Rachel Maddow or one of them that referred to, they were so distraught over the notion of Ronna McDaniel's broadcasting over, and this is the quote, our sacred air.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Yeah, and it goes against our... remember
the sacred airwaves of MSNBC?
And the other thing was, she didn't share the same vision as us. It wasn't on the same mission. You go, I thought the mission was to deliver news and commentary. But that's not what it is. it's propaganda. Goebbels, I'll tell you something, could not be happier right now. Just going, I told you. Say it loud, say it over again.
Well, it's funny. One of them had said during that whole meltdown that, we've tried to get alternative viewpoints on the show. Like, we've invited Liz Cheney over and over again. And I'm going, Liz Cheney is not an alternative viewpoint. She just, for some reason, still calls herself a Republican.
Yeah.
She's another one, like full-blown stage 3 Trump
TDS,
derangement syndrome.
Yeah, and now that you find out that they took all of the evidence from that and destroyed it, can you imagine a congressional committee destroying evidence that might prove that people were innocent or guilty? What kind of savages are they? It didn't fit what we wanted, so we just destroyed all of the evidence. Oh, okay. Don't forget to kill your witnesses. If we learn nothing, kill your witnesses. But, I'm sorry, suicide your witnesses. That's what it is.
Yeah, you know what? They could, and I can say this because I am of Sicilian heritage, these people could learn a little something from the mob, from the mafia. Like, at least there was a code, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if Vito was picking up $1,000 in cash every week at your deli in an envelope, you got something for that $1,000, right?
Yes.
I mean, you got protection. Your family was safe. Your store was safe.
Yeah.
Yes, it was grifting, but at least there was a product. At least you got something. It's not like the Hunter Biden family grifting where they get millions of dollars and then these countries maybe get contracts or something like that. But there's no direct link. The mafia at least has a code.
Yeah, well, the code was if you give it to Hunter, he'll give 10% to the big guy, and then you'll get $1 billion. So what's it worth to get $1 billion?
Yeah.
It's actually, I'd pay 10%. We do sales, commission. Right. What's the commission on $1 billion? Is it 3%? Is it 4%? Is it 5%? Is it putting the idiot kid on the payroll for an energy company that he has absolutely no experience in? Apparently it is.
We are so...
$80,000 a month to sit on a board. I'm sorry, to be placed on a board that you never have to show up or do anything, and the checks just come in.
And you don't have to have any expertise in the business.
So it is kind of like the mob with the no-show job with the union stuff, how they would sometimes do that. They'd go, look, I need 2 jobs for people who aren't going to show up. And they go, well, they have to show up, at least once a week. Okay.
Yeah.
Which the Sopranos did a great job of showing how that worked.
Exactly.
They're on the construction site and folding beach chairs.
Yeah. At least they're holding up their end.
Yeah. I showed up.
Yeah. Holding up your end. Now, I have to touch on one of your favorite people, Fani Willis. She stays on in the Georgia trial against Trump, and she said last week that she had a relationship with a man, and she doesn't feel bad about that, and there's nothing to see here.
No.
A deep intellect, too, by the way, don't you think?
Oh,
Fani Willis?
Absolutely.
Deep thinker?
When she was on the stand asking questions, it was just, when you're a lawyer and you get admonished by a judge for saying, hey, if you don't knock it off, we're going to strike all of your testimony. And in the back of her mind, where all that space is, she probably thought, maybe that's a good thing, because then all the stupid stuff I've just said can't be used against me. They'll strike it from the record. It's just, I never had a relationship with him until he was already, hired in there. Well, we have the geolocation info from your phones. Oh, no, we used to meet late at night, but it was just, to talk and catch up on things. I know he was married at the time, but, every now and then.
Yeah. No wrestling with her conscience on that one.
No.
And I was just kind of amazed at that whole thing. And I guess that still could change.
And luckily, she paid him back in cash. Of course, she has no records of where the cash came from, and he has no records of deposits.
Oh, I don't know, but she said, and again, I don't want to make any waves here, but she said that black people do that a lot. I didn't know that black people keep a lot of cash around.
Yeah, I wasn't quite aware of that.
Yeah.
But it's just...
I just didn't know it was a black thing.
But look, you know what? When when your side piece throws you a job and pays you triple what anybody else is getting paid for the job, you got to take her on vacations. You got to do the right thing because the side piece is helping you out.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's still the term.
Well,
but
yeah, I think
when you're married,
we might be dating
piece.
ourselves a little bit there with the side piece reference. But your point's well taken, and what a great career boost from a guy who's never. My understanding is, I don't know that he never prosecuted a case, but he was very new. Certainly nothing like this. And this is the guy you're going to bring in to prosecute a heavily publicized trial against a former president. Yeah. A historic trial.
Yeah, well, that's why I think one of the reasons she brought him in, he had that new lawyer smell that she just finds so attractive.
Yeah, I know. I have that same. I have that same car freshener in my car.
Yeah. That smells like corruption.
Oh, the new lawyer smell. It's hanging on my mirror right now. Yeah. Certainly better than a lot of the other scents and smells that are prevalent in today's world. So.
And hey, just touch on this for a second. I went to see RFK Jr. speak at Scott Brown's barn, and I was amazed at the honesty from the man. Yep. He answered questions according to how he felt about the question. He didn't pander to one side or the other. He knew the crowd was mixed and knew every question he was pissing off half of the crowd, and he didn't care because he had core beliefs. And somebody asked him the question, and they said, have you considered running as an independent? He goes, I would only do that if the DNC messed with me and tried to keep me off the ballot. And now he's running as an independent because they did, in fact, mess with him and keep him off the ballot. And as soon as he gave that answer, I went, wow, this guy's going to need Secret Service protection.
Which they won't
give him. And they're trying to, once again, how much money does Trump have on hand? About $500 million. Okay, we'll make up the fine for $454. We'll leave him some money left over to pay some other fines that we're going to hit him with later. But how much do you think RFK had in his war chest? Well, what's it cost for your security? All right, we'll make him pay for his own security. That'll wipe him out. He'll be out of the race quick.
Yeah, it's a really interesting play. And I have to say, I've been very impressed with him as well since the beginning. He's honest. He's smart.
He's passionate.
He's articulate.
About what he believes.
He's passionate. I'd way rather have him than Biden if that's what it came down to. No brainer.
Well, it's funny because they keep calling him this conspiracy theorist, this guy who's anti-science and anti-medicine and anti-health. And then you look at the people who are saying this and you look at their body shape. It's like Humpty Dumpty. And the guy takes off his shirt and you go, he is ripped and cut like he's competing in some type of competition.
Yeah, he looks like a triathlete.
Go, look at him. Yeah. He's in amazing condition.
Yeah.
And they go, well, he actually had a drug problem. We go, yeah, like 45 years ago. And he's gone to meetings and done the work, which is why he's doing what he's doing. He was an environmental lawyer. And he got into the vaccine stuff because these people followed him from place to place and kept showing up. They stalked him. They found him in Hyannis at the compound, and they gave him a stack of papers. So we're not leaving till you read it. And then he read it and went, wow, all of the studies that they said they did, they never even did the studies about what the side effects were, what the efficacy was. It's unbelievable. So we're going to give you a shot. What's the efficacy? Well, we don't know. What's the side effect? Well, we can't tell you. So you can't tell me if it's going to work, and you won't tell me if it's going to hurt me. Yeah, that's right. But Rachel Maddow said if you take that shot, everything will stop with you. But it was so weird that nothing stopped.
I know, because I think she's a doctor.
Yeah. No, that's Joe Biden. That's a doctor.
Oh, Dr. Joe Biden. I'm sorry. I keep confusing Rachel Maddow with Jill Biden. And by the way, to your JFK physique thing, oddly enough, unlike Hunter Biden, RFK rather.
Yeah.
There's a guy that you wouldn't probably mind seeing in an underwear and stuff.
It's amazing.
And before we wrap, I've got to get your take on this. I know you came all the way down here to do this. I really appreciate it.
Oh,
because one of the things I've wanted to talk about, never really got on the show, is, and you touched on it with the COVID thing, it's like this whole thing went away under the radar. No one's going to be held accountable. There was the vaccine stuff, like you said. I had a daughter who was halfway through high school when that happened, and they closed school, sent the kids home for remote learning. That changed everything, not just with my daughter, but with a lot of kids, because when it's time to go back to school, they're like, why?
Yeah.
How come I could do it at home before, but not now? And then there's even adults. Like, I think even Elon Musk and a lot of companies finally had to say, hey, get back to the office or you're all done.
Yeah.
So even adults didn't want to readopt to post-COVID.
No.
And it's just stunning to me. Like a month or so ago, they finally announced, like on page 13, a little paragraph at the bottom of page 13, by the way, COVID was just another flu.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Well, yeah.
And no accountability for any of the financial
Nothing.
damage, emotional damage, structural damage to the country. It's incredible.
What amazes me was that they were killing people with respirators. They were putting people on ventilators, blowing their lungs out and killing them and going, yeah, this thing is really bad. If you get it and you get on a ventilator, you're probably going to die. And it's like, maybe you want to turn it down a little.
Maybe you want to take it off the deep sea submarine plunge setting.
Oh, man, it's just the madness. And I get that there's a learning curve. But when you see that some things seem to be having, if something's having a placebo effect, but it's working under a placebo effect, give them the placebo. Sorry, I'm going to yell. Yeah. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
It didn't. And I agree with you, because I've always defended Trump, and kind of the initial reaction to COVID is like, look, they've been screwing with this, gain of function thing for years all over the world. And it is a warfare thing. It's not medical.
No.
And so they have known and still know that someday we might get that big one that's got 70% lethality instead of the minuscule that COVID did. But the thing that killed me about COVID is once we kind of figured out, okay, this is not that virus, this is not that thing.
No.
The reluctance and indeed refusal to back off of it and change anything.
No.
And now that we finally figure out, okay, it was just a flu. Yeah. No accountability whatsoever. And then all the data that was skewed. They had these people like you die in a motorcycle accident with no helmet, your head gets caved in, but if you had COVID, you were a COVID death.
Yeah.
So even the data they had
was skewed.
It was so skewed it couldn't be trusted.
No. And again, you go, they're not that stupid. This was by design. It's the same thing. We have an open border, and they go, why can't they fix it? Can't they see? Are they that stupid that they can't see? They can see clearly. This is what they want. When a bill shows up and they go, we want to get 300 more border agents in there. Border agent isn't really the term you want to use. You want to use processing agent, because they just want to expedite the paperwork to get people in here quicker. Who've come into the country illegally.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's not a border agent.
Yeah.
That's
and
just
the other thing is the bill, this is what Biden hides behind, like they always do. We've tried the bipartisan bill. I'm so tired of hearing that phrase, bipartisan bill. It just makes me want to puke.
Yeah.
The honest truth is the president could, with an executive order today, undo what he undid that Trump had done that was working.
Yeah.
So the whole thing that they're waiting on Congress is all BS. That's because they want the Ukraine money. They want all their fudge money. He could close the border with an executive order today.
And this is Cloward and Piven. This is absolutely Cloward and Piven. Use the system by bringing the system down, by overwhelming the system and making matters so bad that people will say, now we need the government to straighten it out. This crime is just rampant in the streets. It's not safe to go anywhere. We need martial law. And they'll go, well, we don't want to do that. But if you really ask nice, we'll give it to you. All the time going, you set us up. You set us up for this. We need it because of what you did or didn't do. And again, anybody who says, the border should be open, take the door off your house. Take your front door off. Take your front door off.
Put your money where your mouth is.
You know, when they had somebody that broke into Deval Patrick's farm, Sweet Pea Farm, they were out of there in less than 4 hours. They didn't ask them why they were there. They didn't say, well, you're already here, so why don't you try on his suits and see if anything fits you? Why don't you help yourself to the refrigerator? Have yourself a sandwich. No, they didn't say that. They treated him like a criminal. They said, you're here illegally, so we're going to take you out of his home. Oh, so is that like a metaphor for our country if you're here illegally? No, it's not. It's not, because if you were, you'd go to Nancy Pelosi's house, open up one of her 2 freezers, and have a $20 pint of ice cream.
Yes. Yeah, you'd open up one of the doors on her $40,000 Sub-Zero freezer. Yeah, it's painful. I can only hope that some lights are going to come on, that maybe some people are going to reevaluate between now and November.
Yeah.
And, of course, that depends on what happens and how much worse things get. But you kind of wonder,
Do you have
how much worse does it have to get?
Do you have an edit button anywhere where you can dump something if I slip and say something?
Yeah, no, we don't have to edit it, so just go ahead and
Wake the fuck up!
Joey Carroll, ladies and gentlemen, where can folks see you more? You got a website? You got dates coming up? What do you got?
Yeah, funnyjoey.com. I don't think I've updated that website since COVID. But yeah, you can go there. You can find me. You look around, you'll find me. I'm on Twitter at TV's Joe Carroll, and I post some rantings and ravings up there occasionally. Not a lot of comedy stuff though. I'm still working. I will be. Oh, by the time this thing hits, how fast is this?
Well, it'll probably be out tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Before Easter.
Oh, okay, good. So I'll be at Jonathan's in Agunquit, April 6th with Steve Sweeney and Jack Lynch, and then I'll be appearing all over Maine and New Hampshire for the rest of the season.
All right.
Yeah, that's where most of my work was. So once I fled Massachusetts, I went, you know what? There's really not that much work down there anymore.
And it's kind of all the same too. It's changing.
Yeah,
it's all changing.
It's just up here. You go to places and there's parking, and they feed you. You get your sodas and coffees for free, and down there it's just like
it's a Marlboro man life.
Yeah, and
I miss it.
Oh, and then down in Boston, it's like you show up and you're gonna pay to park, go do the gig, and then when you get to the gig, they tell you, well, there's a private party out there, so we don't want you walking through there. So can you come around the back and go by the dumpster and what?
That's what you should do. What we should do is the backstory of stand-up comedy, Boston area stand-up comedy. I do say, in fact, I was just talking to the producer about it before you showed up, that I have this urge to get back to the stage and do it again, and we'll see if that happens or not. But
comedians are the redheaded stepchildren of the entertainment industry.
100%. Yep, well said. And I usually close the show with a little aviation moniker. It's called Keep the Blue Side Up. And that's a reference to the artificial horizon and not auguring into the ground. So keep the blue side up. And I guess we'll add to that to close this week's show with keep the blue side up and wake the fuck up. Is that what it was?
Yes, that's it.
Thanks, man.
This was fun, man.
Good to see you.
Yeah, this is
great.
great.
I appreciate you. Keep the blue side up.